All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly compelling analysis of YouTube's unprecedented global power and the economic theories driving it. We all know YouTube, we all use it, but today we're looking at a deeply fascinating source that challenges us to see this platform not just as a place for entertainment, but as a complex monopoly. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the scale of YouTube. Then we'll uncover Google's hidden empire, their devour and crush strategy, the rise of crony capitalism, how they exploit both viewers and creators, and finally, the principal agent problem. Okay, section 1. The scale of YouTube, or as the source calls it, a global broadcaster. To really grasp the source's argument here, we've got to look at its absolutely massive global footprint. I mean, we can't talk about economic impact without first grasping the sheer size of the audience. Look at this number. The average American spends nearly 50 minutes a day on YouTube. And get this, in countries like South Korea and Thailand, that jumps to almost an hour and a half every single day, mostly just scrolling on their phones. Think about your own daily habits for a second. This is an immense amount of human attention being captured by one single platform. And if that doesn't put it in perspective, how about 2.7 billion people logging in every single month? That's roughly a third of everyone alive on Earth today. The source points out that this literally makes YouTube the closest thing humanity has ever had to a true global broadcaster. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. Look at the cultural grip this platform has on kids. When asked what they want to be when they grow up, a full third of kids today say they want to be YouTubers. Compare that to just 11% who dream of being astronauts. No way, right? They aren't dreaming of television or traditional Hollywood cinema. They're dreaming of making videos for this one specific American company based in Silicon Valley. And the source highlights this super interesting linguistic quirk to really drive the point home. Think about it. We don't call Millie Bobby Brown a Netflixer, right? Or Billie Eilish a Spotifyer. Yet video creators are entirely defined by this single company's brand name. We call them YouTubers. It completely cements how totally dependent we are on this specific platform. Moving on to Section 2, Google's hidden empire, Alphabet Inc. Let's peel back another layer and see how this cultural dominance is built on the massive corporate machinery of YouTube's parent company, Alphabet Inc. According to investigative journalist Nicholas Shaxson, Google is way more than just a search engine. It's an interconnected conglomerate with total market dominance. We're talking the Android operating system on 70% of phones, the Chrome browser with a 70% market share, and Google Search, a 90% market share. When you throw in Google Maps, Gemini AI, and YouTube, you see an inescapable web of digital infrastructure. And, as you'd guess, that dominance generates some astronomical wealth. To put their $400 billion in annual revenue into perspective, the source anchors it as nearly 10 times larger than Coca-Cola. And even crazier, it's equivalent to half of the entire United States defense budget. Let that sink in. When it comes to pure profit volume, nobody else even comes close. All right, Section 3, Devour and Crush, Preserving the Monopoly. So here's the crucial point. Google actively uses all that wealth to preserve its monopoly and make sure YouTube is the only video platform in town. They don't just sit back, they actively shape the market. The source argues they use two really aggressive tactics here. First is devouring, which basically means buying up competitors just to kill them off. Like, Google actually had its own Google Video platform, but they just bought YouTube and killed their own service instead of competing. And the second tactic is crushing, forcing phone makers to pre-install the YouTube app just to get access to the Google Play Store. Boom, YouTube is instantly on 70% of the world's smartphones. And because of this manipulated search and advertising ecosystem, basically every major attempt to rival them has failed. I mean, look at this graveyard of platforms. Vessel, Yahoo Screen, Blip TV. Even massive corporations couldn't crack it. Which means you, me, and the creators, we're essentially stuck without a true, viable alternative. Which brings us to Section 4, the rise of crony capitalism, a structural shift. This gets to the structural core of the argument, shifting from modern tech strategy back to 18th century economic theory. The source brings in philosopher Adam Smith to contrast two systems. First, you have competitive capitalism, where companies fight for your business, driving innovation up and prices down. But then you have crony capitalism. This is a system where firms get so unimaginably powerful that they literally don't have to compete for customers at all. Instead, they can just exploit everyone who depends on them. And the explainer argues this perfectly describes our modern tech monopolies behavior. Next up, Section 5, Exploiting Users, both viewers and creators. Since there's nowhere else to go, the source argues this monopoly quietly but super effectively exploits both sides of the screen. As a viewer, you're hit with dynamic ad loads, basically machine learning figuring out exactly how many ads you'll tolerate before you finally close the app. Plus, the algorithm isn't actually designed to show you what you'll enjoy. It's built to maximize watch time, which researchers found actually pulls viewers down increasingly addictive and often radical rabbit holes. And on the flip side, creators are forced into these totally opaque 55-45 revenue splits with absolutely zero power to negotiate. To show just how unfair these opaque percentage splits can be when you're dealing with a giant corporation, the source shares this wild anecdote about Hollywood accounting. So the actor who played Darth Vader used to get these occasional letters saying that because Return of the Jedi had, quote, never gone into profit, he was getting nothing. The movie made $475 million on a $32 million budget. The point here is, when a massive company holds all the data, an opaque percentage split is whatever they decide it is. And impartially reporting on the wider implications here, the source warns this goes way beyond just economics. These dominant tech platforms hold such immense global power that political figures, like former President Donald Trump, who was mentioned in the analysis, can potentially exert pressure on them. This basically turns a tech platform into a geopolitical weapon, capable of pushing personal or political agendas globally without any of the usual diplomatic checks and balances. Finally, Section 6, the principal agent problem, funding conflicts. So how on earth do independent creators survive and fund their work in an ecosystem totally dominated by this crony capitalism? Well, taking corporate sponsorships introduces what economists call the principal agent problem. It creates this massive tension where a creator is pressured to serve two masters. You, the audience, want honest, fact-based content that speaks truth to power, but the sponsor, they just want to sell products and definitely want to avoid criticizing corporate power. And research shows this conflict has very real consequences in our media. Ad-funded media systematically avoids content that might hurt a sponsor's profits, basically rewarding those sponsors with totally unearned favorable coverage. The source argues this is exactly how crony capitalism subtly corrupts the whole media landscape, essentially silencing any criticism of the very monopolies we've been talking about today. But the source does conclude with a pretty empowering solution. The only way around this structural flaw is direct audience funding. When you, the viewers, fund creators directly, that principal agent problem just vanishes. The creator's financial survival becomes 100% aligned with what you actually want: truthful, valuable content. There are no corporate sponsors to protect and no hard truths to sweep under the rug. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider about your own media habits. Next time you're scrolling, stop and ask yourself, who is really funding the media you consume every day? And what truths are they paying to hide? It's a heavy question for sure, but understanding the hidden economic machinery shaping what we watch is the absolute first step toward demanding something better.